You're watching Co-op for Two, where today we're taking a look at beasts. My name is Greg. I'm here with Jesse. Thanks for having me on your channel.
My pleasure.
Okay, so we're going to look at the overview of the game first. Beast is a cooperative game for 2 to 5 players. During the game, you're going to be playing out cards from your hand and then refilling from a shared deck. When that deck is depleted and you played all the cards from your hand, and every player has done so, you will win the game. You're going to be creating a 3-digit number. If ever you have cards in your hand and you cannot play one, then everyone loses the game. So let's take a look at how it plays. Okay, so as you see here, you've got 3 cards here. These are just cards, and they're placed to remind you of the hundreds place, the tens place, and the ones place. You also have these 3 discard tokens here, which is a shared pool, and we'll get into that in a moment. And then, of course, you have a large number of cards here. Now, the cards are broken down into the normal 4 suits and then subdivided into another suit from there. So you're going to have like a normal deck of cards. You've got spades, diamonds, clubs, and hearts. And then further from that, you're going to have the broken side. So this gold embossed that you see here, these are gold embossed. That's going to be the broken spade, the broken diamond, the broken club, and the broken hearts, as you see the kind of the shiny gold embossed there. And then, of course, each one has a number on it as well. Cards go from 1 to 9. There are also beast cards. They have no number. They just have this artwork of a beast on them. And they are there's one in every one of the suits. So the 4 suits and then subdivided into the broken version of that. So the broken diamond, the regular diamond, the broken spade, and so on and so forth. Now, when you're setting up the game, you're going to shuffle the deck up, and everybody's going to get their hand of cards. So in a 2-player game, for example, each player is going to get 5 cards. When you've drawn your opening hands, then you're going to randomly select 4 of the beasts without looking at them, remove the other 4 from the game without looking at them, and then shuffle those beasts into the deck. So on your turn, you're going to choose one of your suits in your hand, and that's going to include both the broken and unbroken. So for instance, let's say I said I'm going to play spades. I would have to play all of the spades in my hand, so that would be these 2, and then you would just play them into the tableau. The only rule is that you have to increase the number always. So let's say I could say, okay, I'll put 5 here, and now that's the number is 005, and then I'll play the 7 there. That's a legal move. My turn will be over, and then I would draw up, and the next player would go. Now we're just going to jump further into the game here, and you see we've got 347. So maybe I would say I'll play my clubs. I'd put a 9 down here and draw another card. Maybe the next player would play. Now, if this were the next player's hand, you know, they could say, okay, well, I'll go 5. Now you could choose to leave this to bring it up to 359, or, and there's a reason you might do that, or you can just wipe this, and now you'd have these cards would be removed from the game, of course, and then you would have 350. Okay, so that would be the number. Now that would allow you to play, you know, your 7 down, say. You know, now you'd have 357. Those are the hearts if I had chosen to play the hearts. And then I would draw up. Now, you see here that you always have to be going higher and higher. So there's a danger in, you know, like if I played my my diamonds here, you know, this would not be a bad move because I could go 4 and then wipe these, creating the number of 400, right? And we'd be on track. Now, you can see that you can only go up to 999, and you have to go through this entire deck of cards. So you have to make as small little jumps as possible. So if I were going to play a card, say, you know, I would not want to play like a 9 or something, and you'd be reluctant to move that number higher than you want to. So you want to choose carefully which, you know, sometimes like I might just take, you know, and play the hearts out of my hand. I might not play you know, the spades if I thought, you know, if I had it, you know, if I didn't want to have to play this 9 because I don't have a good place to do so. Sometimes you're forced into situations where you have to do a jump of 100 or 200 or whatever, and those are very dangerous situations. If ever you want to play a card, like let's say I wanted to, for whatever reason, play my spades, but I didn't want to play the 9, or I didn't want to play the 1 for whatever reason, I could use one of the shared, this is a shared pool, and I could take that and I would discard one of the cards. So let's say I could discard that 9, and then I would just play my 1 by playing the spades. Now, this is a limited pool, of course, so you want to be very careful. You're only getting 3 for the entire game, and there's 72 cards plus the cards in your hand to go through. Okay, so now you're probably wondering what the beasts do. Well, when you draw a card off the top of your deck, and it's a beast, you will announce it to the table. You will take it out of your hand and put it on the table so the other players can see. So we have drawn in this case, the broken spade here with the gold foil. And the other players can, have a little heads up so that they may be able to play something to change things here. Now, a beast will always go above, okay, the rightmost side. So it would go above here. Now, it will block. Now, you can never play a broken spade in this spot here. Now, if you have a broken spade here, it will scare the beast away. And so he would actually move to the next spot. So now this spot is now blocked for broken spades. Now, if you were to plan it properly, you could have other players play broken spades into these spots. If there was a broken spade in each of those spots, so for instance here, if you had 631, then the beast would get scared here, scared here, scared here, and then he would leave, and you would discard him, and he would be out of the game. Now, this is one of the... okay, so this is where a little bit of the strategy of the game comes in. It's not great. Obviously, it lessens your options to have a beast in that spot. It means that you can't play the beast suit in that slot. However, it is quite difficult to get rid of the beast because once he's there, you cannot move them. So you have to sort of set it up before the beast comes out in order to kind of lock them out and push them completely off the board. And the sacrifice there is a bit of a push-pull because if you put, if you make an unnecessary jump or you kind of move the number up higher than you might like to in order to get those suits out to remove the beast, then you might make things more difficult for yourself later. You're only going to really get 4 of those beasts in the regular standard game, so you might want to try to at least spread them out a little bit. That way you have a little more options, although you are constrained to some degree. So just an example of maybe the last turn of the game, we've got all the cards here in the discard. We played them all out. This is our number as we see it now, 876. I've got my broken club in hand. I say I'm going to play my clubs. I cannot play it here because you see I have a beast here that matches that. These are the other beasts that are in play. We were just pretending that we have, scared away one of the beasts forever. And so I can't play it here, so I'll play it there. Now I've got 896. That will be considered our final score. And, the idea that you want to kind of push your luck a little bit by raising that number to get a high score, but you also want to be able to empty out your whole hand. So that's our final score, it's 896, and we would have won the game. Now, that's a standard game. If you would like to increase the difficulty of the game, you can add in additional beasts. You can subtract the discard tokens. You can do both. If you'd like, you can play it on the hardest setting, which is the Beastmaster mode, in which case you would remove all of the discard tokens, shuffle all 8 beasts in, and then play the game, and of course, hope for that high score. Lastly, I should mention the communication limits. So they have some examples of things you can say. Like any game in this nature, it's a little ambiguous. Sometimes you can't say exactly what's in your hand, but you can give indications. They give some examples like we should play all our diamond cards, or clear or don't clear the first place, meaning like, hey, maybe that's the only place I can play, or you don't want to lose if you can't play a card out of your hand. And then my favorite probably communication example I've ever seen was, my turn will ruin this place. So kind of a cool thing there.
So today we're looking at a small card game called Beasts. Probably what we would call a sort of filler game. It actually fills in a spot for us that, I hoped it would. Yeah. That Cahoots holds a very special part. A game that we play to sort of pass the time. I think we should start with components, though, because I think we both might have some thoughts on it. What do you think about the components here?
Again, this is just a card game. It's basically kind of along the level of like a trick-taking game or something, right? Like just very simple, just the cards. They are very lovely. Like the art on them is really well done. And it has this, which I feel has been like becoming sort of an industry thing. You're seeing a lot of this foil or gold embossed cards. Actually, just reviewed a game very similar that had some shiny cards, but it has this nice gold on it, which is pretty cool.
And the beast art.
Which is very lovely. So the art is really nice.
Can I just interrupt for a second? I don't like it.
Oh, yeah?
I do not like the look and feel of this game. Yeah. The cards feel stiff. I don't like all this gold shiny stuff. I don't like that the numbers are so easy to flip. There's something weird about it. I think it's the fact that like some of them are orientation insensitive. Like this number on the corners is right no matter how you flip it. But then the center one, it's very common that we play these wrong. I don't like the gold. I don't like that you have to, your mind is always going like, This is the broken because it's gold and foil, and the art is a little bit different.
Well, I think
I don't like it.
Yeah. So just to
And it's busy.
Go off
it's
of your
very busy.
Yeah, just to go off of yours. You have your hand of cards like this, right? Right, and you know what those card numbers are, like you would normally put into a deck of cards. When you put them on here, as you say, oftentimes, you know, they don't work both ways. So that's a 9. It's very important that that's a 6.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that you put it properly.
Well, you've actually just figured out why the problem happens that I didn't even realize. It's because when you're looking at your cards like this, it's always right side up.
Yeah.
That's always a 6 and a 6. So when it's in your hand splayed out, you think you're holding it upright. Yeah. It's only when you play it you realize the card's actually upside down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so given the nature of this game, what components they had to work with, keeping it streamlined in terms of a quick game to play, I don't know what solution they could have done. So it is a little bit of a nitpick because you're like, oh, this is the wrong way. You've got to make sure you turn it over, because that's the whole point of the game, is that you're playing sequential numbers. So you're always going higher. So that is an important component, but I don't know what you would do about it.
The upright stuff is not the big deal. The big deal is I just don't like this. It's too busy for me. I want, like, when we play a game like this that's so abstract, I just want just the number.
Yeah, I think that's true. You want, because you're never really thinking like, I'm looking at this lovely art. You're always just like, I need the 5, I need the 6. You do want them to be more form than function, right?
Yeah.
Or more function than form. However, I do think it's kind of cool, the idea that they have this broken suits.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a very clever,
it's really clever.
Idea.
Yeah, because when you have to play your spades, you play all the spades. However,
it's a very clever.
However,
idea.
When the beasts are out, you have that's where it makes a difference, when there's broken and regular. So you could see if it was like all the spades that come out, if this was like all spades, not broken or whatever, just all the spades there are, that would be functionally different, because then you would be dealing with a quarter of the cards rather than an eighth of the cards.
Sure.
So I think functionally that's kind of a cool concept. And again, you have to play all the spades at once. So I think that's an interesting.
If we're getting to mechanics, absolutely, it's novel. I'm not sure we've seen anything like this.
You just don't like that it's the gold.
I just don't like the whole art is hard to read and distracting.
Yeah.
And I just would prefer this like a really much starker, simpler thing. I
do,
don't need the theme. This whole beast. None of that is necessary or helps. But okay, let's get into mechanics here. I don't remember playing a game like this. Yeah. It's one of the best experiences with these kinds of games, with cooperative games in general, which does not happen to us very often these days because we've played so many, is to get a game out and be like, okay, I get the rules. Now, what's the strategy? Yeah. When you sit and play this game for the first time, you're like, I don't know how I should be thinking about this. Like, I can't on paper look at the rules and figure out what the strategy is. There are things that seem obviously good, but then there's the extra layer about moving the beast. And you're like, what should we be trying to do? Should we be trying to get the beast all the way off? Is that even possible? Do you always play the smallest card? And I feel like, unlike many of the games we play, I still have not I do not know exactly the right way to play this game. We can beat it. We beat it on the normal level. Yeah, but do you feel like you've completely mastered the strategy?
Well, let me back up just a little bit, because you talked about a few different things here. Okay, so just to address each of your points here. Firstly, as gamers, it is really great to have a game that you can just learn the rules and set up and be playing within 6 minutes, because that's really where this is at. We do play a lot of games, and I think that's one of the things about playing a lot of games. It's like a lot of time to learn the game. So that's more of a general thing about most games of this type. Is it a good game? The strategy there. Okay, well, that's what you're talking about as well. I do want to, you mentioned about the beasts. That's the wrinkle, right? That's the wrinkle. You're basically trying to play out the whole deck before you reach 999, right? That's the whole point of the game. So it's a pretty constrained thing. Every game like this is going to need a wrinkle, and the beasts are that wrinkle, right?
Yeah.
So I do think it's very different when you're playing a 2-player game, and I've not played anymore. We just played together, a number of times at 2 players. I've not played a larger player count, so I can only surmise the difference here. But when we play, there's the idea that you would push the beast completely off the whole thing, never going to happen. I mean, we did it like one time.
Yeah.
Yes, I believe we just did it the one time because it lined up. But it's often not really worth jumping up 100 or 200 points, just to knock the beast off. But what we did realize was the strategy was, if you can, you want to try to, if you can put something in the ones place, then you kind of spread them out.
As a general heuristic, it seems like you should spread them out. But you
Just
make
to
a
get
good
more
point
options.
about multiple player.
Yeah.
Like we did realize at some point, because when you get a beast, when you draw it at the end of your turn, you get a beast, you put it in front of you.
I think that's
the
cool
more players, very cool thing.
Yeah.
The more players, the more time you're going to have before that beast gets played. So it does feel like with larger player count, which is actually quite a difference between something like Cahoots that we like. Many of these games, with the more player count, the more chaotic it gets and the more you can't plan. Because by the time your turn comes around, the state of the world has changed dramatically.
Yeah.
But in this game, it almost flips that, because you have so long to take care of that beast, that with a larger player count, you do have new strategies. Like maybe we could get enough of this right suit to get that thing completely gotten rid of.
Yeah, I think so. Then the other point you made was about the strat. You said you didn't have a really good handle on what you think.
I don't know the perfect strategy yet.
Yeah, I think we had mentioned while we were playing. I stopped for a second. I was like, when you're playing out your cards, are you thinking about what I could play next or what? And you said no, and I said, neither do I. I don't really think about it. I think mostly when we're playing, I'm thinking one thing. I'm like, I'm looking at the cards in my hands. How can I put them out in a way that doesn't increase the numbers?
But
too much.
But you have to remember what the conversation we had right after you said that, because you made this great point. You said, "Are you thinking about what I can play?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Not really. I've got my hands full." And then we immediately segued to, hey, maybe we should look at the instructions on communicating more, because basically we weren't communicating at all verbally.
Yeah.
And then we went to the book, and the book and the author on Board Game Geek has a little post about communication. And he basically says, your group should figure it out. But that is actually one of the more interesting parts about this game, because right after that, we did start communicating a little bit, especially at the end of the game. You said, I can only play high cards here, and we had a little diversion. It does feel like this connects these two issues perfectly, because it does feel like part of the strategy of this game that we haven't fully explored yet is communicating better within the rules. And it's part of what makes Cahoots more enjoyable when we play, because we've developed a little system where you can say, I can help with this goal.
Well, it is in the rules.
It is in the rules here, but you could see why that would be important. It's just that I don't think we know exactly what to communicate, other than like, you have to make this safe for me here. What's the favorite comment at the back of this book?
Yeah,
one of the suggestions, I'm about to ruin this place.
Yes, that's exactly it. My turn will ruin this place. Yeah, I think so the chief way the two ways you could lose is that you accelerate too much. Right, and you can kind of look at the deck and say, okay, we got about half the deck left. I think the first couple times we played, I would stack the discard. We would always sweep it off and stack the discard, so we could sort of see when we got that halfway point, you want to be below 500, right? Ideally, right? And so we kind of looked at that, and I think that's the one big concern. And the other one, of course, is that you can't play a card. Right?
Yeah.
And I think that because of that, I think when you're playing, you say about the strategy, I'll go into the communication in a second, I just want to get too far away from the strategy, is that mostly I'm looking at my cards and I'm thinking to myself, what's the most efficient way that I can get these cards out of my hand without racing too hard? But there's two other things.
There is like a perfect, so like any given time, if you pick a suit, there is a perfect efficient way. It's not necessarily the best strategic way.
And then the other two things that you're looking out for really in strategy or whatever is, number one, you want to avoid getting flooded with a single suit. So if you have three of a suit or something,
or
two or
the
three,
same number is also very bad. In a suit.
Yeah, you may want to dump those as soon as you can, because you don't want to be forced to play out like 5 cards out of your hand or 4 cards out of your hand.
Let me just make a quick comment about that, because I think that's part of the push your luck thing here. Like on one hand, as you say, it often feels like I should just figure out the most efficient way to do this. But there absolutely is a little bit of push your luck element here. Like as the cards are building up in your hand, you're taking a little bit of risk that you're going to have a hard time playing them, and you might be putting someone in an awkward position. Like if you've got 9s, if you have 2 9s here, you're forcing the other player. Even if that was super efficient from your hand, you're forcing them to play here. And if they don't have a good card for there, you're forcing them to mess it up.
I mean, you can just play one card out or whatever if you're in danger. And you can point out, part of the rules is I must play mid, high, low here or whatever. So those are the things. And you don't want to get in a position where you can't play anything. As you say, if you have low cards in your hand, and as you mentioned, there's high cards, those are the two things. So I think you're playing efficiently out of your hand with numbers. You're not getting a lot of anything, numbers or suits, right? And you're not getting locked into a lower numbers where you need to only play higher numbers.
And so you've got some you're making some push your luck decisions here,
Okay, so those are the things. Now, to address the communication, this is a huge sticking point for me in games, right?
Yes, it is.
Because it's so easy to cheat in these kind of games, right? You look at something like Hanabi, and it's like, you have 3 blue cards, here, here, here. That's it. Or you have 3 3s, here, here, and here, right? That's spelled completely out for you. These games, you could be like, I mean, like I think one of the more famous examples is like Shadows or Camelot. We're like, I have a mighty strength here. Okay, was that a 4? That's a 4. Whatever. It's really annoying. I can't stand that.
It bothers you more than me, for sure.
And I think Cahoots, which is our parallel to this game, right? What we really love, and we're kind of looking to this game to be like maybe the new Cahoots or whatever.
I think that's right.
I actually have a little solution for this that I'm going to start doing.
Yeah.
And in fact, I almost asked you last night, I'm going to do a little hobbying. I'm going to make little things. So this game has, we should all play our diamond cards, right? I'm going to make some. I'm going to take those little clear plastic things, and I'm going to make these and say, then you can put that out. I'm not getting creative with the way I'm saying things, because people will do that. It's the same thing in games where you're like, you're not allowed to like, when a player reaches for the thing. I mean, that's,
well, it is, it is interesting that Cahoots has sort of a vague discussion, but we play it with very strict. We basically say you've got these 2 cubes. You can say what thing you can help, what goal you can help, and what pile you can help. This one is not going to be so easy. You are going to have to figure out what the rules are. It is you are more sensitive to that. I'm more willing to be like, if we're in trouble,
but it does seem to be like a gray area where you might say something that isn't technically legal. That's and then you say, and you're like, well, I said it. What do you want? We're just going to keep playing. So I tend to prefer to want to play in the truer sense of the game, I guess, in terms of the
Now there is another strategic thing that we haven't talked about, which again falls into that category of I'm not exactly sure what the best strategy is, and push your luck, and that's this very clever idea of these things, which are basically like the exceptions. Like, I don't want to play this card, I'm going to throw it out instead, but you only have a limited number. And when we play, you tend to use that more than I do. Maybe just because I forget, but
if I have a really good play, I look at it, but it is a shared pool, which is kind of cool. And you can kind of get a sense, again, like looking at how much of the deck is left, you can say, look, I'm in real trouble. Like, we have I guess it's all just a little bit of a it's like a gray area, right? It's like, well, I got to make a decision. Should I burn through these tokens? I got a good move here I can make if I do that. But we've already eaten 2 of the tokens. Maybe you might want to save one towards the end, because it does get a little harder. You have less options when you're emptying your hand out. Like anything, you kind of want to save it for when you're in a desperate state. But, so that is kind of a cool thing, I think. We've mentioned that this is, we keep talking about Cahoots. I feel like I read that somewhere about this game being like Cahoots or something. And we've mentioned it because it fills that same kind of space of a cooperative card game that has limited communication and stuff. But really, there's almost no similarities between these 2 games.
I don't know about that. I see lots of similarities. I mean, in addition to the weight of the complexity that you could sort of talk while you're doing it, also
the
shares.
Mechanisms really like.
Well, you've got piles that you're playing cards onto. And I think it has a couple of elements. Like there are a couple magical games when I think about them, and Cahoots is one of them. And it's because in addition to the strategy, there's some fun involved. And we've got our whole system for what things are fun when you ruin something for someone. And I love the games that when someone plays... I love the games when you're playing cooperatively, and game makes players make bad moves. They're not making strategically wrong moves,
Yeah.
but they're damaging the group situation.
Yeah, unintentionally.
Unintentionally, and through no fault of their own. But I love that little part where you get to complain.
Yeah.
And that happens here when someone ends up putting a high card on there. You're like, what have you done to us?
Yeah.
And it's no fault of their own, but that is enjoyable.
One last thing I want to talk about was we've talked about the strategy, at length here, and I think I don't really see. This is kind of an interesting thing where it is a pretty simple game, as we said. That's one of the attractive things to it, the filler style game, whatever. But I don't feel like if you lost this game, you wouldn't be able to say, I know how to do it better next time. I don't think you're changing your strategy. I think you're not going to really play it differently game to game. You're just going to kind of do what you were doing. You're not really taking into consideration your teammates that much. You're just sort of, which is what makes it attractive as a quick filler type of game that's less mental strain than like a big, heavy Euro or something. But it's, I don't feel like it's game to game, it's going to be two totally different. Is that a bad thing? I mean, if that's what you're looking for, is like this. But do you feel like you're going to play differently game to game? If you lost a game, do you feel like the next game you're going to be like, I know what to do this time?
Yeah, I think I want to disagree with you a little bit. Okay. I'm not super confident about it, but on the other hand, I feel like in a way that's not true. In a way, like comparing this with Cahoots, I think is very informative because for me, I enjoy Cahoots more. I think especially as a game to play while you're passing time. But I think the possibility for strategic depth here might be larger, but there may be some untapped stuff here that we haven't figured out. Like, for example, and this is true in Cahoots too, if you did pay attention more to the cards that have already been played, you could do a little bit of card counting. Obviously, neither of us want to do card counting. Sure, I know, but there are some strategic decisions here that feel like they're at a higher level than something like Cahoots. You look at Cahoots, you're basically saying, if I can do something that's clearly good, efficient, get a couple goals, I should do it. There's very rarely ever time. There's a little bit of strategy to avoid getting yourself into a position where you can't play cards. I feel like here maybe there are some more interesting decisions, like when you've got only two suits, when you can see that you're running out of cards, and a little bit of push your luck probability estimating that I don't have a good handle on. So I feel like there's more strategic depth for us to discover here. I don't know how long that would last.
I think I disagree with you on that. And I also think if you can look at this, if I could tell you right straight out and I could say, look, there's been 12 spades played and 13, broken spades played or whatever. That's not great actually because it just goes up to 9. But if I was able to tell you exactly the numbers that were played, if you can make use of that information when you play out your hand, then I think you've been made by Skynet. You're like you are an android of some kind. Yeah.
But I do remember when we played a game and I was thinking, well, we played a lot of hearts. Like that beast is not really going to harm us much because we've gotten a good chunk of our hearts out.
But did you play any differently because of that?
I don't know.
Did you play your card? I don't think you would have personally. But we can disagree on that.
And another point is, here's a good example. When we're playing Cahoots, the first turn and the last turn are the same.
Yeah.
In other words, we're just trying to most efficiently get the goals.
Yeah.
There's a different decision that has to be made here. As you said, as you get closer to the end, you're like, well, we're ahead of the curve. So we can afford to bump this up and we should worry less about the worst case scenario, or now the time to start using these tokens. I think there are some more interesting strategic decisions here that we haven't yet wrapped our hand around. On the other hand, it's not quite as enjoyable as Cahoots, so I don't know.
I do want to mention, the last thing I want to mention here is that at the game end, you're supposed to, the score, it says
That's
here.
That's a little weird.
Okay, this is what it says. It says, your final score is the last 3-digit number played. Well, what does that mean? Do you want a larger score?
Yeah.
Ideally, I would think you would want a lower score because
most of the game you want to keep the score as low as possible.
So essentially, you would want a low score, but I felt like maybe it's supposed to be a higher score, so we would kind of play them out to try to create a higher
That's
number.
how I read it, but I agree it's ambiguous. But I
Doesn't
read
make
it
any sense.
as sort of like it's trying to lure you into wanting
Into
the
pushing your
numbers
luck.
to push your luck a little bit at the end.
Oh, I guess you could see it that way. Yeah. So in one hand, you're pushing your luck by like getting it closer to 1,000, right? Is more dangerous for your co-players, right? But maybe you hold that 9 till the end to slap down.
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting, I guess, getting close to the edge. I think that's actually an interesting way to look at it. I didn't think about it till we just said it right now. You got a final rating?
it's interesting. Sometimes we have these discussions, and like you start out with a final rating, but by the time you get done having a discussion, you feel like a little bit better about it. So
or worse about it, depending on the game.
That's true. That's true. I think I'm going to give this an 8, which is higher than I thought I was going to give it. I am curious to play more of it.
Yeah.
And try different strategies.
Yeah, I give it a 7.5. I think it's a fun filler. It's quick to play, quick to learn. But like if I could play it every day for the next week, or I could play it never again or in 6 months. So I feel like it's a good, solid game that I enjoy, but it didn't like blow me away.
Where would you compare this with Cahoots?
Oh, Cahoots, I enjoy more, I think.
Yeah.
Well, Cahoots says couple things. Number one, I think there's way more strategy in Cahoots. I personally think
more strategy. That's interesting.
Because the goals are always shifting.
It's like this is going to segue to a discussion of Cahoots.
Yeah. But I think the goals are changing, and you can decide whether to push towards one goal or go towards another one. And then so I think there's many more. And I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but I think there's a lot more areas where you may play differently. So that the strategy is much different. But almost most importantly, you've already mentioned.
What?
You know what it is.
The part where you can go and take over what someone had planned to do.
So if Jesse if I were to say, hey, I'm going to play here because I want to do this goal, right? Then Jesse could, if he filled it in, like he did it before I was going to do it, you get this extra little thing that's like a little zing to your partner, which always makes us laugh. And I think that's the other thing that it kind of has.
So let me just make one more comment. Regards to Cahoots, and I think has to do with part of why Cahoots is a more fun, enjoyable game for me. And this is a topic that comes up a lot with us in terms of planning and sort of things that take longer to achieve. Here, it really does feel like you're making a tactical decision on your turn where to play, and there's no intermediate satisfaction. There's no intermediate goals. You're sort of just making your progress towards the end, and then it's sort of anticlimactic when you do it. You're like, all right, we did it. When you play Cahoots, you've always got these little intermediate goals, and sometimes it takes you quite a while to achieve them, or you're going in towards it, and then you're like, I'm going to have to veer us away, or should I veer us away? There's whether it's strategy or not, it does feel like a journey that's more of an interesting roller coaster.
But is there space on your shelf for both?
Yeah, I think so. For now, at least. I can see getting tired of it in a way that I don't get tired of Cahoots. But I would put this, like, in that genre, if you were to recommend it to someone, this might be, like, number 2. In terms of that filler, enjoyable, cooperative game. Yeah. I mean, I like it. It's a good design. Very clever.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us.
Well done.
Simple. Okay.
Good job.
Now we do the. Do you want me to say?
No, yeah, I want you to do this, and then I'll lead us into the discussion.
I'll say we're going to look at the. Okay.
The overview.
Okay, let's take a look.
No, you got to say who you are.
Oh yeah, that's right. My name is Greg.
You got to say me too.
Oh.
Because we don't like it when people do their pause with the other person. I hate that.
Okay. My name is Greg. I'm here with Jesse. Thanks for having me on your channel. And we're going to take a look at the overview. No, that was not good.
That's pretty good.
Let me do it again.
But you got to let me say thanks for being here. Like that's how it works. Like you do the I'm Greg. I'm here with Jesse.
Why don't we just do it the same way we did a minute ago? Okay, you want me to
mix it up? But remember, when I say I'm Jesse, I'm here with Greg, then you say thank you for having me on the channel. So now when you do it, Yeah, you got to let me say something.
Oh, you say thanks for coming on the channel.
That's what I normally say, but you're going to say it now. See. You are going to do it now.
So
but then I say a little. I
this
have.
Seems
you,
way
I got to get a word in. Just try.
Okay. So I'm just not clear. That's my only thing. So
Yeah.
I say. I'm okay. All right. I'm Greg, and I'm here with Jesse.
That's it. Then you got to say thank you for having me on the channel, and then I'm going to say my pleasure, and then you're going to say before we get started.
You were saying that you were going to say okay. All right, ready.
I just need one word.
Yeah, I thought you were. I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say thanks for coming on the channel.
You're going to try it now.
That's what I
just
to
mix it up. But then you got to let me get one word in.
Okay. I can't. All right, here we go.